a unique find of archaeologists that amazed the whole world. It has the power to rewrite the history of mankind. To learn more about it and see the most ancient buildings of the United Arab Emirates, the oldest Buddhist temple, the Peruvian sea monster, and the world's oldest family tree, then you should watch this video to the end. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. Silver Scrolls of Ketef Hinnom. The archaeological site of Ketef Hinnom is a complex of rock-cut burial chambers located southwest of the old city of Jerusalem, on the road to Bethlehem. In 1979, archaeologists made an important discovery at the site. They found two silver plates twisted like scrolls. They were inscribed in Old Hebrew. These scrolls are believed to have been used as amulets and date back to the 7th century BC. The texts on these amulets contain the oldest surviving quotations from the Torah. Acambaro figurines. An archaeological find which to this day causes a lot of controversy in the scientific world. Some researchers claim that the collection is a skillful forgery, while others are confident in its authenticity. Today, the figurines are in the Acambaro Museum, attracting many tourists from many countries. The collection includes small clay figurines made in the form of animals, dinosaurs, and humans. The finds were collected by the German immigrant Waldemar Julsrud. He claimed to have found the first item near a mountain near Acambaro. Then Julsrud discovered similar items from the local residents of the settlement and decided to buy them. The oldest buildings in the UAE found. The ruins found by archaeologists are 500 years older than the most ancient buildings known in the UAE so far. Archaeologists studying the heritage of the United Arab Emirates continue to add new chapters to the history of this land. On the island of Gaga, located west of the city of Abu Dhabi, scientists have found stone structures and artifacts created 8,500 years ago. The previous record for the earliest structure in the UAE is held by the ruins on Madaba Island, and they are 500 years younger. Here, in layers aged 5,800–5,600 years, there was a pearl which indicates a well-established practice of trade and exchange. Based on these and a number of other discoveries, it was believed that the first settlements in this area were created during the Neolithic period with the development of trade sea routes. The presence of an 8,500-year-old building proves that people lived here before. The islands of Abu Dhabi were a fertile coast, and the advent of trade with distant countries only strengthened their prosperity. The found building is a simple round room, the walls of which are made of stone. Their full height has not been established. Stones laid to a height of about a meter have survived to this day. People lived there all year round. Numerous artifacts testify to this, including skillfully crafted stone arrowheads that were used for hunting. The inhabitants also enjoyed rich seafood. How long the settlement existed has not yet been established, but even after it was abandoned, it was not forgotten. Almost 5,000 years ago, a man was buried in the ruins. This is one of the few burials of this period known on the islands of Abu Dhabi. Mangazeya. This was the name of the first Russian polar city of the 17th century. It originated in 1607 on the Taz River in Siberia. It was created first of all to exercise government control over the Mangazeya sea route, connecting the White Sea and the Ob. Flour, bread, salt, and other goods were brought to Siberia through Mangazeya, and a huge amount of furs was exported. The city was rich. Legends were even made about its wealth, calling Mangazeya gold boiling. Alas, the city lasted less than a century. The inhabitants left Mangazeya. The main role in this was played by a general change in the ways of colonizing Siberia and also by the impoverishment of local fur trades. Mangazeya became uninteresting for its townspeople, but not for archaeologists. The first excavations in these places were carried out in 1862 by Kushelovsky. During the excavations, it turned out that Mangazeya had a division typical for ancient Russian cities into a city, Kremlin, and a suburb. Madaba map. The Madaba map is the oldest surviving map of the Holy Land, especially Jerusalem, and is part of a floor mosaic in the Byzantine Church of St. George in Madaba, Jordan. The map was discovered during repairs to the church in 1884 and has been dated to sometime between 560 and 565 AD. Although the map originally depicted much of the Middle East, from southern Syria to central Egypt, most of the mosaic map had already been destroyed when it was first discovered. However, the part of the map depicting Jerusalem remained untouched and includes an oval-shaped fortified city with 6 gates, 21 towers, and several dozen buildings and structures. Visitors to Madaba can see the map in person. A copy of the ancient map is also kept at the Archaeological Institute of the University of Göttingen in Germany. An unusual dinosaurs feature. Scientists have discovered the first fossils of the dog-billed dinosaur Acambaro odysseus in African Morocco. Acambaro means foreigner in Arabic. They find puzzled experts because until now, such species were found only in Europe. At the time of the dinosaurs, the 2 continents were separated by a deep ocean, so the researchers wanted to find out how they got to Africa. The species Acambaro odysseus lived at the end of the Cretaceous period 66 million years ago. These dinosaurs ate plants, but compared to other phalloplatypuses, were small in size, 3 meters in length. Scientists explained their surprise after finding it in Africa. It's like finding a kangaroo in Scotland. Experts studied the teeth and jawbones of the species and determined that it belonged to the subfamily of dog-billed dinosaurs, Lambeosaurans. On their heads, scientists believe were intricate bone crests. They first lived in North America, then spread to Asia and Europe, but their fossils have never been found in Africa. The researchers argue that dinosaurs could not have reached the continent by land. According to scientists, the animals probably got there by water. It is assumed that representatives of this species were good swimmers. They had powerful legs and tails. In addition, the remains were found in river sediments and sea rocks, which suggests that they could move on water. 10-million-year-old tooth. Scientists from Germany fear that the whole world after their discovery will have to rewrite the history of mankind. We are talking about a tooth that was discovered near the German commune of Appelsheim. Researchers have previously found a similar find only in Ethiopia. The similarity of the teeth found so impressed them that they double-checked the dating of the remains for more than a year so as not to make hasty statements. The age of the last tooth found is almost 10 million years. One of the oldest Buddhist temples in the world. Stone fragments date back to the 2nd century BC. Archaeologists from Italy have found one of the oldest Buddhist temples in the world in the Pakistani city of Barikat. Stone wall fragments and other artifacts date back to the second half of the 2nd century BC. Italian experts have been working in the Gandhara region since 1955, but large-scale discoveries have only just been made. The city of Barikat, where Italian scientists work today, is mentioned in Greek and Latin texts as Bazaira or Vajrasana. This is one of the cities besieged by Alexander the Great. This place played an important role in the management of all agricultural areas of the Swat Valley, which due to its microclimate allows grain or rice to be harvested twice a year. For Alexander the Great, Barikat became a kind of granary, which he took advantage of before continuing his campaign in India. Italian scientists have found that the ancient temple in Barikat had a cylindrical shape and a height of 3 meters. It was built in an apsidal podium during the reign of the ancient Greek king Menander I. At the same time, an even more ancient structure was previously located on the site where the temple was erected. Archaeologists also found fragments of inscriptions on ceramics made in the Karachi script and several coins. Scholars believe that during its long history, the temple in Barikat has been repeatedly vandalized. And finally, it was abandoned at the beginning of the 3rd century AD, when the lower city was destroyed by an earthquake. Peruvian sea monster. Today, whales are considered kind and rather harmless creatures, but the ancient whale that plowed the waters of present-day Peru 36 million years ago hardly fits this description. The formidable animal, which is called the sea monster, reached 17 meters in length and had razor-sharp teeth, which allowed it to feed on large animals, including tuna and sharks. This find is outstanding due to its excellent state of preservation. This animal was one of the largest predators of its time. A whale's skull with rows of long, sharp teeth was discovered last year in Peru's Aucache Desert. At that time, the Peruvian Sea was warm. Thanks to these fossils, we can reconstruct the history of the Peruvian Sea. Scientists believe that the skull belonged to Basilosaurus, a member of the aquatic cetacean family whose descendants are whales, dolphins, and porpoises. Although the name Basilosaurus means royal lizard, the animal is not a reptile. However, according to scientists, the movements of its long body could indeed resemble the movements of a large snake. The predator, a kukash, as scientists dubbed it, used its powerful teeth to feed on tuna, sharks, and schools of sardines. The researchers explained that when Basilosaurus died, its skull likely sank to the bottom of the seafloor where it quickly petrified. The first cetaceans, such as Basilosaurus, evolved from land animals about 55 million years ago. By the late Eocene, 56 to 34 million years ago, cetaceans were fully adapted to marine life. The Akukash Desert is rich in fossils, thanks to which scientists can trace 42 million years of evolution. Humanity nearly died out 70,000 years ago. Man as a species was on the verge of extinction about 70,000 years ago, a recent genetic study testifies. Scientists believe that at some point only 2,000 people remained alive on Earth. This means that for quite a long period of time, man was actually an endangered species and is a victim of disease, natural disasters, and conflicts. If at that historical moment even one of these factors had worked against Homo sapiens, we simply would not exist today. In addition, as a result of the same genetic experiment which writes the American Journal of Human Genetics, the researchers came to the conclusion that man first left Africa at about the same time, 70,000 years ago. Unlike their closest relatives, the chimpanzee, all humans have virtually identical DNA. Moreover, even in one group of chimpanzees, individuals have more differences in the structure of DNA than all 6 billion people now living on Earth. According to the BBC, scientists from the American Stanford University and the Russian Academy of Sciences compared 377 microsatellite marks in DNA collected in 52 regions of the Earth. The result revealed a close relationship between two generations of hunter-gatherers living in sub-Saharan Africa, the Imbuti Pygmies of the Congo Basin and the Hoosian Bushmen of Botswana. The researchers believe that the Imbuti and the Hoosians are representatives of the oldest branch of modern man ever studied. Such small differences in the DNA of modern people indicate that in the last 100,000 years, man was literally on the verge of extinction, and all representatives of the human race living today are descendants of a small group that survived in their time. Its number probably did not exceed 2,000 individuals during the critical period. The oldest family tree in the world. Ancient DNA analysis of one of Britain's best-preserved Neolithic tombs, nearly 6,000 years old, shows that 27 of the 35 people contained inside were from 5 continuous generations of one large family. Hazelton North Mound in the Cotswold Hills in the west of England is one of the best-preserved Neolithic tombs in the UK. Inside, the remains of 35 people were discovered in the 1980s, all believed to have lived between 5,600 and 5,700 years ago, about 100 years after agriculture began in the area. Several years ago, a team of specialists extracted genetic material from these buried remains. In a recent study, scientists used the genetic data to reconstruct various relationships between all these people. The analyses show that most of the people buried in the grave were descended from 4 women who had children from the same man. These results suggest that polygamous marriages existed in the Neolithic society of that time. Researchers find it unlikely that this male ancestor had 4 wives, one after the other. In fact, he probably had several wives at the same time. The results of this work also show that men tended to be buried with their father and brothers, indicating a patrilineal origin. In other words, the buried of later generations were connected to the first generation through their male relatives. Finally, the team identified 8 people who were not biological relatives of those listed on the family tree. However, 3 of them were women. Therefore, it is possible that they had a partner in the grave, but no children. It is also possible that they had daughters, but they left the community as adults, which would explain their absence from the grave. Ancient tombs and sarcophagus found under Notre Dame. Several tombs and elite sarcophagus were found in Notre Dame during the reconstruction of the cathedral after a fire in 2019. This is reported by The Guardian with reference to the French Ministry of Culture. It is assumed that the sarcophagus was made for a high-ranking dignitary in the 1300s. Apparently, under the weight of the earth and stones, it was deformed. To look inside it, a team of experts used a mini endoscopic camera. You can catch a glimpse of bits of clothes, hair, and a pillow of leaves on top of the deceased, a well-known phenomenon when religious leaders were buried. That these plant elements are still inside means that the body is very well preserved. In addition to the tombs, elements of painted sculptures were also found. They have been identified as parts of the original 13th century cross partition, the architectural element that separates the altar from the nave. Rate this video with your thumbs up or down, tell your friends about it, and I will definitely answer every kind comment. Thanks for your views, bye everyone!